After the third density decision as to orientation, there is seldom an occasion where the entity switches to the other side, and then this usually occurs only for a brief time. Under what circumstances would such a switch occur? This almost invariably occurs during an incarnation, and then under circumstances where the entity is striving toward a certain goal, which cannot be attained within the confines of the existing orientation. We will give examples. Say, for instance, the entity is in the service to self and desires to build a place of shelter for himself. He is not receiving cooperation from the others in the group, as each is operating as much as possible for themselves. Discouraged, he recalls times past when cooperation on such activities was common, and gives the call in a strong enough manner that his guides are called to a conference. The entity is deemed motivated enough to be transferred to a service to others group of a like incarnation, i.e. of a similar physical body type. The entity is introduced in a manner acceptable to the social structure and satisfies his desire for a shelter. Shortly afterwards, when the critical need is past, he resorts to his old ways and becomes again service to self. At this point, another conference is called, and the guides return the entity to his prior situation. Similarly, a service to other entity may find himself stressed as a particular physical need is not being met, say, for instance, a sexual need. The entity cannot put this physical need into perspective and constantly considers doing away with competitors and enslaving the sexual object. Due to the intensity of this desire, and we must mention that the entity's past must have made them particularly vulnerable for this to be occurring, the entity becomes totally obsessed and falls into the category of service to self, or 95% devoted to the self. The guides, so called to the situation, place the entity in a service to self environment where the sexual obsession is not out of place. After satisfying these desires, the entity finds matters falling into perspective. The guides realize the entity has returned to a service to others orientation, the true orientation, and return the entity to the original group. There are no known instances where entities in fourth density have switched orientations permanently, but in higher densities, switching from service to self to service to others occurs regularly. However, the temporary movement of entities between orientations during fourth density is done to assist the general progress of the entity and to resolve questions quickly. In essence, a matter is put to the test and thus resolved